I have a DS Lite that I'm putting together. This one is being put together with a translucent shell. This is like a translucent turquoise, I think, from Extreme Rate. And one of the things that you'll run into if you're using translucent shells or transparent shells, doesn't matter who makes them, they seem to all run into this issue. And that is, once you get the display adhesive in there before you put the display in, you can end up with visible bubbles around the edge. You'll see little air bubbles. And I found a way to make sure that you don't get those. There is an official video from Extreme Rate themselves, and it shows the guy basically pushing it down with his finger. I'm going to show you why that's no good and an alternate method. So let me get into it. First, I've got my old display. This one just came out of a DS Lite that had a cracked hinge. So I was able to remove it without having to twirl it up and pull it out. And so what I do to make this easier for me is I have a little piece of plastic straw, like a drinking straw. And I found one that's just the right size. It's just the right size to fit in this round opening with a little bit of a gap. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spin up this flex cable. Okay, so once you've got the piece of straw on your display flex cable, then you can slide it in, right? But keep it on, because there's another piece that you need. You need to slide that metal ring over it. Somewhere in the bits and pieces that they send you, you're going to have that metal ring for the hinge. I'm just going to pull this out so you can take a look at that. So you want to put that little hinge ring over here before you go any further, because it's easy to forget that. Also, speaking of forgetting things, among the parts that you receive for this is this little adhesive pad, and this pad goes right here, and its purpose is to support the little flex cable that the speaker's attached to. It's also easy to forget this, so I just make it one of my first steps. Okay, now I get the backing peeled off. We're just going to stick this on right here. Alright, you notice that I still have the old lens on here, and there's a good reason for that. You want to keep it on as long as you can to keep this screen clean and free of fingerprints while you're working with the top display. So once we've got this adhesive on, we've got the hinge ring on, the next step is to put the microphone cable in. And that goes right in this opening. There we go. Microphone is in. Next is this Wi-Fi antenna. I'm just using my fingernail to push it down over these little pins that are in here. Okay, now that's in. Now this is the piece that I was talking about earlier. Probably the reason why you're here watching this video is you want to see how to put this adhesive in there without getting any air bubbles. Okay, so you see there's two sides. Now this only applies to the extreme rate adhesive, but there's other companies that make these as well. But in general, there's going to be a thinner side and then a thicker side. And the thinner side, you can see, has more of a grayish color to it. That's the side that's going to go face down in this frame. So we're going to start by just removing the outer paper. See if I can get that again. That was way too easy. All right. Just remove the outer paper. So you got like this. And then I'm going to have to move the camera because you're going to need a better view of this. So here's the adhesive part. I hope this camera angle is better, that shows what you're supposed to do. I'm right-handed, so hopefully you can see it better this way. You've got your narrow side and then you've got your wide side. You'll see a fat side over here. That part's pretty obvious. The narrow side's going to go up here. And then you just lay it down, but don't push it down yet. Then you want to grab the spudger tool that they gave you. And go once over, kind of gently first, and then a little firmer the second time. And just imagine that in doing this, you're trying to squeeze out the air bubbles as you go around. You can't see them yet, but, and then you can check your work. Let's see how we did. I still managed to get a couple little air spots here and there, so I'm going to go over those this spot here, here, and there with the, you see that? I'm going to go over it again with the spudger. Let's see how I did. Okay, I got rid of that one on the top. No more air bubble there. Let's get rid of the ones on the bottom. Let's see how we did. Oh, that looks good. It looks better. There's still a couple little tiny ones there. And if it weren't for the fact that I'm a perfectionist, I would have probably just let this slide. So now I'm using the actual sharp part of the spudger. And I'm just slowly pushing it back and forth. Let's see how we did. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Perfect. No air bubbles. Got them. So then you're probably familiar with the rest of the procedure, but I'll just show it to you anyway since you're already here. The way I do it is slightly different. I just grab the corner of this outer frame. I leave the middle piece in there because, again, you want to keep this from getting fingerprints and dust on it. And as soon as I take off this lens, you're going to see it's exposed and vulnerable to getting dust on it. So what I'm going to do is quickly make sure that the speaker is out of the way. Just gonna press it down into the opening, make sure it's kind of even on all sides and that there's not any lifts or gaps. So it should look like this when your display's in. And now you can go ahead and route that wire for the speaker. This would be the right speaker, I think. You want to make sure that these wires are down in there and out of the way. There's a border here, plastic edge. Can't get my camera to focus, but there's a plastic edge here. It's part of this case. The wires need to be on the other side of that. If they're not, then the shell won't go together. Alright, now before I put the speakers in, the other thing that needs to go in, well, I don't know if it really needs it, but I like to be complete. These are the little rings that go around the speakers, and the shiny side goes face down in the hole. If anybody knows what these are for, please leave me a comment and let me know. I'm very interested. I make sure never to forget them, only because I don't know if they're important or not, and I'd rather them be there if they are important. I imagine it has something to do with the loudness of the speaker, but I'm not sure. Another thing you want to check for before you slide on the translucent cover of your new extreme rate shell is check for any writing or scribbles on the back of your LCD. And sometimes they put like marker or something on here, and I just think it looks kind of ugly with that on there. The numbers are cool. The little grounding pad that they put on here is pretty cool too, but I really don't like seeing writing on there. And for that reason, if I know I'm going to be doing a translucent shell swap, I'll pick a top display that I've already seen before that I know doesn't have any markings on it. So that's just a little helpful tip for anybody who's doing these en masse. So that just goes on like that and slides into place. Okay, now before I screw anything together, I want to put that top lens on there. And this is the part where it really matters that you're wearing gloves. You definitely want to wear gloves while you're doing this, because we all shed skin cells, and it is so annoying when you get this thing perfectly clean and then you're just holding the display over it and like a little flake of skin just goes on the display. It's so frustrating. So let me grab the lens that this came with. That's this one here. And so I'm going to run through an overview of the process in case it doesn't show in the video with my hand in the way or something. What I'm first going to do is there's a side of this that has the red tab on it. That's the side you want to keep on here. You leave that on. It's the other side. I'm going to peel this backing off and expose the adhesive. It's not adhesive actually, it's just the back side of the lens. I'm going to expose that back side of the lens and stick it down once I get this piece off. And if you remember, this is an adhesive, that sticker that has both paper on both sides, so it's going to come right out pretty easily. You just take off the paper off the front, and then you'll see the adhesive exposed. And sometimes I can just grab it with a finger, but other times I need to actually pry it up with something. And as you're peeling it out, just kind of go in a circular motion as you pull it, and then keep this. This is useful for picking up little bits of dust that accidentally get on the display, and then remove the paper that's in there. Do it very gently so you don't scratch the display. I think one of these corners was already up. Yep, there it is. And you can see that despite, yeah, there it goes. You can see that despite my trying very, very hard to keep this display clean, I still got a huge, massive speck of dust on it. So what I'm going to do is just grab that little piece of adhesive that came out of the middle. And this is the pain in the butt part that I was telling you about. Okay, I think I got them all. Now I'm going to go ahead and peel the back off of that. Try not to touch the plastic. There's a lot of room on these shells to go back and forth, so try to get it centered as much as you can. If you push it down too far in one direction, you're going to have a gap on the other side. So if it's biased more towards the bottom side, you'll have a gap up here. And it looks like I got that perfectly centered. See, no gaps. Alright, and now whoever buys this gets to pull off this protective peel off the front, but you saw there will be no dust or anything underneath. And that's where I'm going to stop the video, because I think the rest of it is a piece of cake after this.